So I think most people don't realize it. Benchmarks are the new G2 ground.
What do you think are the two possibilities that could happen now that Peter is part of an OpenAI?
Get ready to extract real business strategies with Rajan and Kashi on RK on AI, the Applied AI Show.
Kashi, you seem to be in a relaxed mode. You're in a t-shirt and a jacket which says relax. What did you play with this week?
Oh yeah, I think a lot many things to play with. I was toying around with a couple of models. I didn't still start with Quen 3.5 just before recording this. I saw it was released, so just going through the release notes of it. But it's quite fun to see it launch. For me, it's one of the most awaited models. I recently ran a benchmark of Quen versus Anthropic, so on and so forth, and I was surprised to see Quen rank. So now that 3.5 is released, I am even more excited about it.
So what's the significance of Quen? Like a lot of people talk about Quen, but many people still just play with the top three labs model. What's the significance?
Well, so I discovered Quen 3 Coder as an open source model to run on Olama. Of course, it's a Chinese model that typically like DeepSeek, so on and so forth. But what I like about Quen is when I ran it locally, it was one of the most portable model. One of the other things I'm tracking about Quen is there are specialized models like Medgamma from Google, and there are also specialized voice to text models, etc. I love the way Quen is ranking up on that. So what it really gives the ability is that running local medical training pipelines, etc. I think Quen is doing a great job. So I think that's where I'm tracking Quen a little more. Of course, apart from the coding. So we'll come to coding a bit on Quen more, but I think that's where I'm tracking Quen for. So what about you?
What else did you play with?
No, it's not play. I
Well,
was
okay,
watching
I
the
can
news.
go next.
Yeah, so I'll shoot one to you, right? Did you watch the news that Anthropic was used for the military operations against Venezuela? What's your take on it? Like, that's crazy.
No, I didn't know about this Venezuela news. I actually saw this other news where the Defense Department said that they are wanting to sever ties with Anthropic because Anthropic is saying they don't want a certain type of use to be done by the model. That's the one that I watched. Like, what is the Venezuela thing? Tell me more.
Yeah, I just picked it up from the papers. It's all over the news. Palantir, which is predominantly military operator, had deployed Anthropic models, and it was used, and some PDFs were uploaded, so on and so forth, and hence that story actually broke out. But I'm not sure how true or how false it is. But I wouldn't be surprised that people in defense department will be using chat GPTs of the world. I mean, it always happens. People will upload whatever they want. So if you want to track what people are doing, maybe that's a place to catch them upon. But I'm less concerned about that. But I'm more concerned saying that, hey, if this can happen in a defense department, imagine what your corporate employees may be uploading. I think we require something strong that will clean up the memory of enterprise in the models they own. That's where we are coming. Own your model, own your destiny. Otherwise, you don't know what you're leaking to these guys, and they'll go spill out everything. So that's where I'm
Yeah,
tracking that news. Yeah,
nightmare scenario, no? Absolute nightmare scenario for all
yeah,
the folks who are actually sort of thinking about how to get into the enterprise, keeping their enterprise security for
yeah.
both the CAIOs and the C.
This one is news. You saw the open claw thing. What happened, Rajan? Did you
Yeah, yeah.
guess that would happen?
I tweeted it. See,
Okay,
I don't know if you're following
you're following.
Lex Friedman. Yeah, yeah, I'm absolutely following it. I saw this murmur on Twitter, and then I was listening to the Lex Friedman podcast with Peter, and in that he pretty much alluded to it. Like a bunch of people on the comments also said that looks like he's going to open AI, and then the news just made it official. I first saw Sama's tweet on that. I wrote a tweet of my own on top of that where I said, look, it's almost like yeah, like all the open source contributors realize that they're marching down to a corporate HQ. I saw this other funny reference. People were calling this as Game of Thrones. For me, it was like who is on the altar, right? Like open source. They said it won for sure. It's like it defined the category. Maybe this is not going to be around, but the next version is there. It defined the category, but then it is not clear. At least with a move like this, is who's getting sacrificed. So that was the
You're a
fun
bit of
part.
an oracle. You're good at predicting things, so I'll put you on the spot, right? What do you think are the two possibilities that could happen now that Peter is part of an OpenAI? What would launch next from OpenAI's tables?
See, I think the Open Claw launch itself is marked just the creation of a new complete category. What happened with
So
Claude Code in May of 2025, and then it led to about $1 billion of revenue for just that one product, right? I would say that we will see a personal agent company, which could be OpenAI, hit about $1 billion of revenue by the end of the year, right? Which will may have been built on top of OpenClaw, or could be something that is learning from it. But we will see another product, a personal agent company, which hits about $1 billion by end of the year. That would be my prediction, right? That is what I would like to say. But at least compared to what had happened last year, this won't even sound that wild, even though you
yeah,
don't get $1 billion of revenue in 1 year. It takes 10 years to get there. But some of these companies are just defying these historical precedents. That
I think
would be
that's a
my
great
take.
prediction. Yeah, yeah. That's a great take and great prediction. I'm a big fan of Peter. I'm sure he'll throw some surprises in. I think its explosion into enterprise world, I think has huge potential. So I'm really counting on that to happen. So on that note, I wanted to talk about our friends as Caspian. You've been sort of talking about them a little. They have been doing great work. So I think you can tell us what Caspian is doing. What is Caspian? What do they do? Why do you think you got excited about them?
So one thing that is happening right now is that we are shifting from just writing prompts to generate code to get to a place where we have like multiple agents that are working together with each other to generate the end-to-end software, right? So that's what is happening with Ralph Wiggum, Gastown, or even Claude's Swarms. Now, what that means is that multiple agents get spawned, sometimes into a screen of 4 by 4 or maybe even a 10 by 10, like how you see those Matrix movies, small screens, right? There are multiple screens that are working. So developers are now monitoring these agents, but then it is turning out to be very tricky. What I really like is they've built a desktop application where you can monitor these agents through a single pane. Arguably, you could do it this on terminal, but a desktop application gives like a much better interface. But what is also interesting in terms of their implementation is you can close it and then you can open it back again and you can go back to the sessions that you were having before. If you do that with a terminal, then it gets killed. And I think a lot of people will start working on this, right? But this is not what is exciting for me. I think the excitement part is that you get to go a little over the layer of what is currently working, right? Today, there is no software, there are no tools for you to actually see multiple agents at work and monitor those multiple agents at work and then coordinate between those multiple agents, right? That interface does not exist. So Caspian is actually thinking about where they started and which direction they are going in. Where they started is you could argue that, look, this is like a very simple tool, but where they are headed towards in terms of saying, we will help these developers monitor multiple agents. In some sense, it is like monitoring your junior employees, right? Today, the interface is very, very clunky. So that's the part that is exciting. And Rashant is very fast, is putting out a lot of things. So that's what is exciting for me in Caspian.
Oh, I'm actually yet to try it out fully, but I'm excited by the concept for the reason that that's a real problem. Think uh, also tracing all those steps so that we're able to sort of evaluate them and establish clear course correction. One, letting the agent run loose. Other one is auditing them and ensuring that you have great insights about where do you need to actually get them to. I think that's a secret part. I think at the moment the need to monitor is high, but as time passes by, it'll go away. But without this learning, I don't think we'll get to something more productive over a period of time. So yeah, well said.
Yeah. What are
On talking
papers
of,
that you are reading actually this week?
I'm reading a bunch of papers, but I'm actually also running a bunch of upgrades. One thing I sort of realized is a lot of old code is running on old GPT-4os, and I started to realize that it's better than 5.2, 5.3 mini, etc. Of course, not everything we
Wait,
use.
what?
Oh yeah, I just thought of
What? Like,
share
hold
that.
on, hold on. Are you saying that 4.0 is better than 5.3? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I hope this comes up on the screen. I hope you're able to see the uh, data that I was putting
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, so what I realized is like we were running 4.1 mini for some reason, and it has huge context window 1 million. And then when we upgraded, sort of, you casually upgrade, think it's better, like the new one is better, and you start to realize that the context window has actually shrunk from 1 million to a 400,000. While it looks like the price has gone down, output price has slightly increased. Yeah, model is better. But when you have something like a RAG heavy application, a GPT 4.1e one was an awesome model. It was not bad by any means for many use cases. Then you suddenly realize that the laws of context actually plays into the quality of outcome. So I found one probably one of the worst use cases, but yeah, it did outperform. So yeah, it does happen. It does happen. Yeah,
When you
and I also
upgrade,
found
your intensity
yeah.
goes down, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, you don't expect that to happen, right? More often, like you
Right, right.
upgrade, you think one is better than the other, etc. I found that. Then I think you and I know we are running Auto Bench now, so I was really surprised by performance of Quen. That's not even the new Quen, the old Quen. So I'll try to pull up that benchmark as well. That result was again one crazy thing I found. I know we're going to launch it soon, but there's a quick preview into the paper. So when I ran the simulations over multiple iterations, I saw that Quen 3 Max thinking does about 103 cents with 231 seconds latency. That's super close to a SOTA model from Google with look at the cost difference. It's huge. And then to Claude Opus. So 60/70 is like pretty good score. So now I'm like when Quen 3.5 got launched, if it comes somewhere here with this cost, I think is like it has a huge implication. So that's why I was talking about Quen, and then I was quite excited about it. Yeah. So I'm just in the moment in the RAG engineering domain back to the ground. So yeah, that's what I'm reading about. So there's a paper on this as well, which talks about it. Yeah. But like on this note, I also want to share, right? Um, I started reading about MIT's paper on artificial intelligence after all the story that came out. Saying Palantir was the one who was using Claude, and then all the drama that is unfolding. I think for all enterprise users, I think we should take a look at this paper. It's quite interesting. It's from MIT AI Risk Initiative. It outlines all the risks. I mean, they have cataloged about 1,700 plus risks across 24 existing frameworks. I think it's not new, but having said that, it is often you need to look back at what they have cataloged, and then it gives a great guideline to how you start thinking back about your enterprise applications. So, yeah, this is what I was reading this week. How about you, Rajan? What were you
What's the
reading?
full name?
It's called MIT AI Risk Initiative. It's a web page, so I think we'll link that to the podcast below. So we'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I look, I still am referring to the 2019 paper from Franciolet, right? The guy who
Okay.
who wrote the RKGI
Hmm.
benchmark. I think after the whole Turing test was given up, some a couple of years ago, and then the ArcAGI benchmark was released, right? So I really like the paper that goes into saying, if you want to test really intelligence between human and machine, then you need to pick things which are easy for humans but harder for machines to do, and that's where the RKGI intelligence design is more around saying, hey, we're going to create these diagrams and blocks which like a human can visually look at it and then easily solve it, but it is going to be hard for a computer or for a machine learning system, a deep learning system to actually just do mug up, right? We've been referring to intelligence more as a mug up, saying that there is training data, the neural network ingests it, understands it, stores and weights, and then this is just sort of repeating it. It's like how you do mug up during when you were like growing up studying it for school, right? But then the whole reasoning thing that came up since '01, right, was all about saying, no, we're going to sort of come up with thought process on how we are doing it forward, and then how do these reasoning solve problems that are at hand, right? So just in terms of all the changes that we are seeing, the thing that we saw with DeepThink and Google, I'm going back to that 2019 uh, paper from Franciolet on measuring intelligence. The name of the paper.
So yeah, I
So
think you
Kashi,
wrote a.
I'm gonna, yes.
No, I wanted to ask you, right? So we talked about SaaS is dead, and now, like, which means probably the way you rank up in AI landscape is dead. I mean, SaaS landscape is dead. So I want to ask you a question, right? How does one rank up in AI landscape? What are the things they must do? Of course, like, like, I just want to like pick your brains on it. Yeah.
So SaaS is all about how do you map out the buying pattern, and it turns out in a buying pattern for an enterprise, you always want to depend on someone else as a reference point, so that later if somebody says, "Hey, did you make a good purchase or a bad purchase?" you can point to that. So enterprise refer to Gartner, mid market and SMB refer to G2 crowd. So we don't have a Gartner and a G2 crowd well established there. Whatever Gartner or G2 crowd played the role of, that is the role that benchmarks are playing.
Mm.
When someone like OpenAI releases a new model, Anthropic releases 4.6, they are like, oh, look at like, Sweet Bench. We saw they released a model and this is the benchmark. And on this benchmark, we are doing better over these competitors on this parameter, right? So I think most people don't realize it. Benchmarks are the new G2 crowd, right? So anybody who's
It's
winning the
well said.
benchmark are the people who are winning. winning. You saw even the Chinese model, right? Seed Dance 2.0. I mean, the demos are fantastic, but that's not where the focus is. The focus is on saying here are like 24 like benchmarks on like multimodal and like on image gen and so on and so forth, and they're saying that like they're beating it all. Now benchmark, you and I know Kashi is like just like the driving test, the written driving test that you give. You can say, hey, yeah, I know the rules of like how to drive, but I don't know how to drive, and you actually learn to drive. You get the real license when you actually sit next to a like someone who's experienced or licensed to actually test your driving, and then you show him how you drive, then only they give you a license. But I think that is really like much later in the equation. It is first saying how do I actually win the consideration set, which is the role that a Gartner or G2 does, which is the role I think benchmark is doing. So in my mind, if you ask me in one sentence, benchmarks are the new G2 crowd.
That's powerful. Really good insight. You're asking me a question earlier, like you're asking me
Yeah, yeah.
something. Yeah.
So I was actually referring to our chit chat with our other friends, right? And like, a lot of founders that we hang out with. And one of them came back and said, okay, this all this playing with tokens and like, doing all of this stuff that you guys are all getting excited about, things that you're talking about here, etc. But where is the money? Show me the money. Right, which I found to be a little weird question, right? So I wanted your own take on that.
We are, especially, I think there are multiple people who will have multiple opinions, but I think we are still in the learn phase. Then we are going to play phase, then you're going to monetization phase. I think there are all the three phases we need to cover. So I think the biggest challenge that people have is that in the learn phase, there's a lot of upfront investment. For example, your cloud code subscriptions, your model subscription to like probably even Quen or any, you have to try a number of items. So I think that's where it looks like the investment is high, but that's a price we pay to get to the second barrier. Like how do we like, go and experiment on things which probably might have an outcome, and then outcome may or may not yield result. I think that's one pathway. So other one is you have a solid problem that can really be solved with AI. So you know that in real world it has real application, and then you work backward. I think both pathways exist. I think yeah, not many people are able to make money with it. It's from the investor money, but there are enough use. If you have a good use case, probably there's money. But otherwise, it's just learn and hope that will encash in some time. I think that's a phase many are in. So yeah, tricky one. We need to cross these phases at this point in time. So I would say to all who are trying, hang in there, because hopefully it'll monetize soon. But you need to hang in there because till now, people who are owning the infrastructure, who are supplying GPUs to the cloud vendors, etc., are the ones who are making money. So that's a one Wall Street Journal covered saying that people who are selling shovels are the ones who are making money. But there will soon come a time when application layer has to start making money. If it doesn't, it'll bring down everybody in that infrastructure chain. They'll just exit. If I can't make money, why will I like sort of hang on? They must must create space for others to make money, otherwise their ecosystem won't exist. So it's like the same like YouTube or any other creator ecosystem. The creator, unless there are creator ecosystem and consumer ecosystems, it may not exist. So I'm sure even model companies are thinking about it a lot more. Hopefully they do let us also make money. Yeah, what's your take? Yeah, I mean, that's one theory.
I like what Prasanna said, right? He
Okay,
said,
I didn't follow
look,
Prasanna.
like
Yeah,
how you said,
tell.
yeah, yeah. So he said very similar to how you said, there is a play phase, there is a learn phase, and there is an earn phase. And if you want to do it all together, it is like saying that, you want to study in LKG, but you
Mm,
also want to earn while you are in LKG, right? So the LKG phase is literally the play phase. And this is an
mm,
age-old debate. For me, it's the age-old debate counting versus investing, right? If you're a bean counter,
yeah.
every spend that you will do is you say that this is like, oh my God, this is a spend. If you're an
Mm,
innovator, if you're a builder, you're a founder, you're someone who can actually create value for the society. Of course, the value capture question is important, but then is it an investing or is it a cost? Is it a spend? Is it really the mindset difference? And I think, at this point in time, you're right. I have I have a little more sinister like way of describing the whole shovel thing, right? It is always the house wins, everybody else is just gambling. You can actually think like that, but then you got to play, right? Unless you play, you will not hit the jackpot, right? So the odds are pretty stacked against you. That's how like any like I know it's not a good comparison with casino. I'm not saying that it is casino like, but then most of consumer application, whether it is a Zomato or whether it is any VC funded like outliers that have generated 1 or 2 3% of that become successful. But then unless you play, you find out what is working, what is the rules of the game, you will never know how to actually win. I love the Prasanna comparison where he said, look, there is time for play, there is time to earn. If you force fit and bring it all together, then it becomes very, very hard. And this is where like it is leading to a lot of I would say paralysis. A lot of people are just asking this question: "Oh, show me the money. I won't play." Right? But unless you play, you won't know where is the money to be made.
I think
So
this is
that's
the
how
debate,
I.
not just, sorry to interrupt you. This is debate not happening just in startups. The same debate is happening in enterprises. The same debate is happening in people's life. I think everyone is going through this. I think that's the importance of the question that came up. And I have some friends who are running projects, I mean, which are 2, 3 years old. And, every project which is 2, 3 years old requires midlife refueling. And now there's a question, do I sink in all the investment and write it off, or do I invest more? And they are crossroads, and they're asking the same
What would
question.
you
If
suggest?
we were,
What would you?
it was a hard one actually. So there's no right answer to it. I think the one we sort of like came to a conclusion is there are some audios which can be written off, but there are some that still hold strong foundations. Maybe you need to take a calculated risk. But importantly, I told them is go back to your management, go back to your board and say, hey, this is reality. We invested in this. This is a situation. The landscape has changed. So let's be honest that there's a change that we have to endure, and the implications will play out. So, and the honesty is the right way to battle this game. I don't think just trying to walk your way away from it or like do something. I don't think that's the right way, is what I told, and I hope I hear back more from it. But many projects are at crossroads. They are 2, 3 years requiring
Stuck
midlife
at sunk
refueling.
cost fallacy.
I'm
Stuck at
sorry.
sunk cost fallacy, like, where like
Yeah,
they have a sunk cost fallacy issue, right? They're like, man,
yeah.
I've invested so much time, but like the landscape has changed.
Yeah. So I think, and the same thing applies to people, right? People have invested a long time in their careers. So I think a lot of crossroads happening, and that's the exciting part, right? How, if you are on the other side. So if you look back, the question I would ask them is what is the right decision that could have been, you would have taken 2 years from now or 1 year from now? And then looking back, what would be the bet you should have taken? I ask them to ask that question to themselves and then say, you know what? You may not have the right answer. Just take the risk. What is that you got to lose, and then sort of move forward. Yeah. Note, I think,
Tough one.
yeah, tough one, tough one. On that note, I think we'll make this a short one. Rajan, I have a
It's tough
last
one.
parting question for you, right? What's the most fun thing you're going to explore tomorrow?
The most fun thing I'm going to explore tomorrow. So I've been trying different ways of orchestrating agents, but I just before our call I was playing with the Ralph Wiggum plugin. So tomorrow I'm like running the most simplest Ralph Wiggum loop, right? So and I already have it running in one of the projects. So I'm going to continue that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, hopefully we bring a special guest in for that, and we'll call it a wrap. Thank you all.
Let's call it a wrap.
Have fun.
All right. See you guys.
Got a hot take on AI? A burning question? Let us know what you'd like us to debate next. And hey, if you want to jump in the ring with us, drop your LinkedIn link and the topic you're itching to discuss. We'd love to have you on the show.